Hello everyone. Tonight we begin with a whisper from the shadows of Mesopotamia, where the stars burn cold and the gods carve their wrath into clay. Picture this. You're crouched in a reed hut, the Tigris lapping at the shore, its waters black as a god's heart. The air smells of mud and fear, and a priest's chant hums through the night, warning of a sky that will crack, a world that will drown. You clutch a tablet, its wedges spelling doom, and you wonder, could you face the end foretold by ancient Sumer, or would it break you before the first wave? Let's find out how 5 civilizations saw the world's end, starting with Sumer's chilling prophecy. Oh, and before we dive in, tell me, where are you watching from? What time is it where you are? Drop a comment. I'd love to know who's curled up in their blanket with me tonight. The dawn is a sullen glow, painting the marshes of Uruk in shades of ash and amber. You're no scribe, no priest, just a potter's apprentice. Your hands caked with clay, your tunic damp from the river's breath. It's 2100 BCE, and the city hums with life, merchants haggling, reeds rustling, the ziggurat looming like a god's throne. But there's a tension in the air, a weight heavier than the baskets you carry. The priests have been whispering for weeks, their voices low, their eyes fixed on the stars. They speak of Enlil, god of storms, and his anger, of a flood that will swallow the world, leaving only silt and silence. You've heard the stories, etched into tablets older than your bloodline. But today, the whispers feel real, like the river knows something you don't. You trudge through the mud, your sandals sinking, the basket of clay balanced on your shoulder. The air smells of fish and damp reeds, and the Tigris gurgles, a low, mocking sound that makes your skin prickle. Your master, a potter named Uarnansha, waits at the kiln, his hands shaping a jar, his face lined with more than age. He's not kind, but he's not cruel, just a man who knows the gods are watching, and he's not taking chances. You set the basket down, the clay sloshing, and he grunts, barely glancing at you. The priests want more tablets, he says, his voice rough. For the omens, work fast. You nod, your stomach twisting, because tablets mean prophecies, and prophecies mean trouble. You kneel by the kiln, the heat kissing your face, and start molding the clay, your fingers pressing wedges into its soft surface. You're not trained for this. Your hands are meant for jars, not words, but the scribes are busy, and the priests are impatient. The wedges are crude, your script shaky, but you copy the signs Uarnansha taught you. Signs that speak of water, of Enlil's wrath, of a world washed clean. The clay is cool, slick, but it feels alive, like it's whispering back. And you pause, your heart thudding. You've heard the prophecy before in hushed tales. The gods, tired of human noise, will send a flood to silence it, sparing only the righteous. You're not sure you're righteous, not with your doubts, your fears, your stolen moments dreaming of a life beyond the kiln. A shadow falls over you, and you look up, expecting Uarnansha's scowl. It's a woman, her robes dyed a deep ochre, her eyes rimmed with kohl that makes them gleam like obsidian. Her name is Inanna Ishtar, a priestess of the goddess, or so the whispers say, a woman who walks between worlds, speaking to gods and spirits alike. Her presence is a chill, despite the kiln's heat, and she's holding a clay tablet, its surface etched with stars and waves. You right at the end, she says, her voice soft but heavy, like the river's current. You nod, your throat dry, and she kneels beside you, her robes brushing the dirt. Do you believe it? She asks, her eyes searching yours, and you feel exposed, like she sees your doubts, your trembling hands, your fragile faith. You want to lie, to say you trust the gods, but her gaze is a trap, and you mumble, I don't know. She smiles, a curve of lips that's not kind, and sets her tablet beside yours. The stars don't lie, she says, but men do. Choose wisely what you carve. She rises, her shadow lingering, and walks away, her footsteps silent on the mud. You stare at the tablets, yours crude, hers precise, and see the difference. Her stars are sharp, her waves alive, like they could spill from the clay and drown you. You think of your old life, of scrolling feeds for doomsday predictions, but those were distant, abstract. This is real, the clay under your nails, the priestess's warning, the river's hum. You return to your tablet, your fingers pressing wedges, but your mind is elsewhere, on Inanna Ishtar, her tablet, her question. Do you believe the world will end, that Enlil's flood will come, that your life is a speck in the god's wrath? The kiln's heat is stifling, the air thick with smoke and clay, and you feel the prophecies weight, like the Tigris is rising to claim you. You glance at the river, its surface calm but deep, and see a ripple, faint but wrong, like something moves beneath. You tell yourself it's a fish, but your heart says otherwise, and you think of the stories of Utnapishtim, the man who survived the last flood, chosen by Ea, not Enlil. You're no Utnapishtim, no hero, just a potter's apprentice, and the gods don't choose the likes of you. A shout from the ziggurat breaks your thoughts, high and urgent, a priest's voice calling the faithful. You stand, your tablet half finished, and see figures gathering, their robes a patchwork of colors against the mud. Arnancha is there, his hand still, his eyes on the ziggurat's peak, where a fire burns, its smoke curling like a warning. The shout comes again, and you catch words, omen, stars, flood, and your stomach twists. The priests are reading the heavens, and you know what it means. The prophecy is close, its truth carved in the sky, not just clay. You should stay, finish the tablet, obey, Arnancha, but the ziggurat pulls you, its fire a beacon, its chant chain. You step toward the crowd, your sandals sinking, the tablet left beside the kiln, its wedges incomplete. The air grows heavier, the rivers hum louder, and you feel Inanna Ishtar's eyes, though she's nowhere in sight. The ziggurat steps are packed, the faithful pressing close, their voices a low drone of prayers to Enlil, to Inanna, to any god who'll listen. You join them, your heart pounding, and see a priest at the peak, his arms raised, his robe black as the Tigris at night. He's holding a bronze blade, its edge catching the firelight, and you realize it's a ritual, a sacrifice to appease the gods, to delay the flood. The crowd murmurs, and you smell blood, faint but real, though no animal is yet slain. The priest's chant grows, naming Enlil's wrath, the star's verdict, the world's end. You want to run, to hide in your hut, but the crowd is a wall, and your feet are rooted, like the reeds that choke the river. The bronze blade gleams, and you think of your tablet, its prophecy unfinished, your doubt a sin. Do you stay, join the chant, and offer your faith, hoping to appease Enlil's anger? Or do you flee, reject the ritual, and risk the god's curse, knowing your disbelief could damn you when the flood comes? The choice is a blade sharper than a priest's, and you're already bleeding. You stay, your lips moving, though no sound comes, your eyes on the fire, the blade, the stars. The priest's voice rises, and the crowd sways, their prayers a storm. You feel the Tigris watching, its ripples growing, and you know the flood is no myth, no story. It's here, in the clay, the stars, your trembling hands. You understand, as the blade flashes, why Sumer's prophecy is a death sentence, not just the water, the gods, the flood, but the choices that bind you, the doubts that cut you, the end you can't outrun. The fire burns, the river hums, and Inanna Ishtar's tablet lies somewhere, its stars waiting to fall. The noon sun is a merciless eye, glaring down on the valley of Mexico as you kneel in the shade of a maize field, your hands stained with earth and sweat. The air is thick with the scent of dust, green stalks, and the faint, acrid tang of copal smoke drifting from a distant temple. Your tunic, woven from maguey fibers, clings to your skin, and your knees ache from hours of tending the crop, pulling weeds that choke the maize like doubts choke your mind. You're a farmer in the Aztec city of Tenochtitlan, 1480 CE, and the world feels fragile, as if the gods are holding their breath. The lake surrounding the city glints under the sun, its waters a mirror for the sky's omens. And you've heard the priest's whispers, Tezcatlipoca, god of night and sorcery, stirs, and with him comes a prophecy of fire, of a sun that will fall, of an end that will burn the world to ash. You rise, brushing dirt from your hands, and sling a basket of maize cobs over your shoulder, its weight a familiar burden. The field hums with life, crickets chirping, leaves rustling, the distant splash of a canoe on the lake. But there's a shadow beneath it, a tension you can't name. The priests have been restless, their rituals more frequent, their knives sharper. They speak of the fifth sun, the era you live in, and its inevitable end, when the earth will quake, the sky will blaze, and the gods will demand the ultimate sacrifice to delay the doom. You've seen the altars slick with blood, the hearts offered to Huitzilopochtli to keep the sun alive. But the stars are shifting, and you wonder if the gods are tired of your offerings, if the maize you grow is just fuel for a fire that's coming. The path to the city is a causeway over the lake. It's stone warm under your sandals, the water lapping at its edges like a hungry tongue. You walk, the basket digging into your shoulder, and try not to look at the temple pyramids in the distance, their peaks crowned with smoke and flame. Your village is small, a cluster of adobe huts, but it's alive with gossip, omens in the sky, a comet that burned for 3 nights, a child born with eyes like obsidian. You're not a priest, not a warrior, just a farmer, but the prophecy clings to you, like the dust that coats your skin. You think of your old life, of doomsday posts on screens, but those were distant, laughable. Here, the end is real. In the lake's ripples, the priest chants, the weight of your basket. A figure stands at the causeway's end, his silhouette stark against the temple's glow. He's not a priest, not a noble, but a man, his cloak feathered with quetzal plumes, his face painted with black and yellow stripes. His name is Tlacaelel, a seer, or so the whispers say, a man who reads the gods while in the smoke of copal and the flight of birds. His eyes are sharp like a jaguar's, and he's holding a bundle of reeds, their tips charred, as if burned in a ritual fire. You slow, your heart thudding, and he steps toward you, his cloak rustling, the air suddenly heavy with the scent of copal and something sharper, blood, maybe, or fear. You carry the earth's heart, he says, nodding at your maize, his voice low, like the lake's murmur. But do you know its end? You blink, your throat dry, and shift the basket, unsure if he's mocking you or testing you. I'm just a farmer, you say, but the words feel weak, and Tlacaelel's smile is a blade, thin and cold. No one is just anything, he says, and holds out a reed, its charred tip crumbling. The gods have spoken. The fifth sun will die in fire, unless the heart is strong. You take the reed, your fingers trembling, and feel its weight, not just physical but spiritual, like it carries the prophecy itself. He turns, his cloak a flash of green, and vanishes into the crowd crossing the causeway, leaving you with the reed and a question you can't answer. Do you believe the world will burn, that Tezcatlipoca's fire will come, that your maize is a futile offering? You walk on, the causeway stretching toward Tenochtitlan, the temple pyramids growing larger, their smoke a shroud over the city. The reed is in your hand, its charred tip smearing your palm, and you feel its pulse, like the gods are watching through it. The market is alive with noise, vendors shouting, turkeys gobbling, the clink of obsidian blades, but you barely hear it. Your mind on Tlacaelel, his words, the prophecy. You deliver the maize to a merchant, his hands quick as he counts the cobs, and you're supposed to return to the fields, but the temple pulls you, its fire a beacon, its chants a chain. You've seen the sacrifices, the hearts raised to the sun, but today the air feels different, like the gods are impatient, their hunger sharper. You follow the crowd, the reed clutched tight, and reach the temple precinct, its stone walls carved with serpents and skulls. The pyramid steps are steep, slick with offerings, blood, flowers, feathers. And you climb, your sandals slipping, your breath shallow. The crowd is dense, their bodies warm, their voices a low drone of prayers to Huitzilopochtli, to Tezcatlipoca, to any god who'll listen. At the peak, a priest stands, his robe black with dried blood, his obsidian knife gleaming in the torchlight. He's chanting, his voice a storm, naming the fifth sun, its end, the fire that will consume the world. You see the altar a stone slab, its surface wet, and you smell the blood, sharp and fresh, though no sacrifice is yet made. The priest's eyes scan the crowd, and you feel them, like Tezcatlipoca's gaze, seeing your doubts, your reed, your fragile life. The chant grows, the crowd sways, and you notice something at the altar's base, a small statue, carved from jade, shaped like a jaguar, its eyes red as the comet that burned. Tezcatlipoca, god of the smoking mirror, lord of fate and fire. Its presence is a weight, and you feel its eyes, like the reed's charred tip, burning your skin. The priest raises his knife, and the crowd gasps, their prayers peaking, but no victim is brought. Yet, you realize with a chill that the sacrifice is coming, and it might not be a warrior, not a captive, but someone chosen, someone like you. You clutch the reed, its ash smearing your hand, and feel the prophecies weight, like the lake is rising to drown you. The priest chant names the fire, the end, the heart that must be strong, and you think of Tlacael's words, his question. Do you know the end? You want to run, to drop the reed and flee to your fields, but the crowd is a wall, and your feet are rooted, like the maze that binds you to this city. The jaguar statue gleams, its red eyes watching, and you feel the gods' hunger, their demand for a heart, a life, a world. Do you stay, join the chant, and offer your faith, hoping to appease Tezcatlipoca's fire? Or do you turn, reject the ritual, and risk the god's curse, knowing your refusal could mark you as the sacrifice when the end comes? You stay, your lips silent, your eyes on the altar, the knife, the jaguar. The priest's voice rises, and the crowd trembles, their prayers a fire of their own. You feel the lake watching, its waters stirring, and you know the prophecy is no tale, no dream. It's here in the reed, the statue, your trembling hands. You think of your maze, your labor, your life, and wonder if they're enough, if anything is. The knife flashes, the chant roars, and you understand, as the crowd presses close, why the Aztec prophecy is a death sentence. Not just the fire, the gods, the end, but the choices that chain you, the faith that cuts you, the heart you can't give. The temple burns, the lake hums, and Tlacael's reed is a spark, waiting to ignite. You're a farmer in Tenochtitlan, and the world is already aflame, its ashes in your hands. The dusk is a heavy curtain, draping the Indus Valley in a haze of amber and dust as you sit cross-legged on a baked brick platform, your hands weaving a cotton thread through a wooden loom. The air is thick with the scent of river mud, sesame oil, and the faint, bitter tang of smoke from a distant fire. Your tunic, dyed a faded indigo, clings to your sweat-damp skin, and your fingers ache from hours of threading. The loom's rhythm, a heartbeat in the fading light. You're a weaver in the city of Mohenjo-Daro, 1900 BCE, and the world feels unsteady, as if the Sarasvati River, flowing just beyond the city's walls, is whispering secrets of its own demise. The streets hum with life, potter's wheels spinning, ox carts creaking, children laughing. But there's a shadow beneath it, a murmur of drought, of a sky that will choke, of an end that will bury the city in silence. You pause, the thread taut in your hands, and wipe sweat from your brow, your eyes scanning the horizon where the river glints like a bronze blade. The priests have been quiet lately, their rituals subdued, but the elders speak of omens, a river shrinking, wells drying, stars misaligned. They tell of a time when the gods, angered by human greed, will turn the earth to dust, the rivers to ash, the cities to ghosts. You've seen the seals, carved with unicorns and sacred trees. They're cryptic signs hinting at a cycle of birth and death, a world that will fade when the gods deem it unworthy. Your cloth is meant for trade, for the priest's robes, but today it feels like a shroud, weaving the prophecy into every thread. You rise, stretching your cramped legs, and carry the half-finished cloth to a clay jar, its cool surface a relief against your palms. The platform is high, overlooking the city's grid of brick houses, their flat roofs glowing in the dusk. Your sister, Anu, waits nearby, her hands kneading dough for flatbread, her face lined with worry she doesn't voice. She's younger, her eyes still bright, but the drought has aged her. The well's low yield a constant threat. You don't speak of the prophecy, not directly, but it's there in the way she glances at the river, the way her prayers to the mother goddess are longer, softer, more desperate. You set the cloth down, the loom silent, and join her, the dough's earthy scent grounding you, though the air feels heavier, like the gods are leaning closer. A figure approaches, climbing the platform steps with a grace that doesn't belong here. He's not a priest, not a traitor, but a man, his beard oiled, his robe a deep saffron that catches the fading light. His name is Ravi, or so the whispers call him, a wanderer who speaks of the gods and riddles, his eyes seeing beyond the city's walls. He carries a staff, its tip carved with a tree, its branches spiraling like the seal's sacred signs. You feel his gaze, not on the cloth, not on Anu, but on you, like he sees the prophecy in your trembling hands, your woven threads. The river speaks, he says, his voice low, like the Sarasvati's current. Do you hear its silence? You blink, your throat dry, and glance at Anu, her hand still, her eyes on Ravi. I hear the city, you say cautious, but the words feel hollow, and Ravi's smile is a shadow, fleeting and sharp. The city is loud, he says, but the river is dying. The gods have seen your greed, your walls, your weight. They'll bury you in dust. He taps his staff, the tree's branches gleaming, and you notice a small seal at his belt, its surface etched with a bull, its horns curved like a waning moon. It's not a trader seal, not a priest's, but something older, heavier, like it carries the prophecy's truth. You want to ask, to demand what he knows, but his eyes hold you, and you feel the river's silence, its pulse fading, its end near. Anu speaks, her voice soft but firm. We honor the gods, she says, her hands resuming their kneading. We offer grain, cloth, prayers. Ravi's smile fades, and he leans closer, his staff's shadow falling over the dough. The gods don't want your offerings, he says. They want your surrender. The earth will shake, the rivers will dry, and Mohenjo-Daro will be a name forgotten. Will you stay, or will you go? He turns, his robe a flash of saffron, and descends the steps, leaving you with the seal's bull, the staff's tree, and a question that cuts like a loon's shuttle. Do you believe the world will end, that the gods will bury your city, that your cloth is a futile thread in their tapestry? You return to the loom, your fingers weaving, but your mind is on Ravi, his words, the prophecy. The city's hum grows distant, the river's silence louder, and you feel the drought's weight, like the Sarasvati, is draining your blood. You think of your old life, of climate warnings on screens, but those were abstract, ignored. Here, the end is real, in the dry wells, the shrinking fields, the elders' omens. You glance at Anu, her dough shaped into flatbreads, her eyes on the horizon, and wonder if she believes, if she'll stay, if she'll survive. The loom's rhythm is a prayer, but you're not sure it's enough. Not when the gods are turning away, their faces carved in dust. A low rumble shakes the platform, faint but real, like the earth is stirring. You freeze, the thread snapping in your hands, and Anu gasps, her flatbread falling to the dirt. The city pauses, its hum faltering, and you hear shouts, not of panic, but of ritual, from the great bath, where the priests gather. The rumble fades, but the air is heavier, the dusk darker, like the gods have spoken. You stand, your cloth abandoned, and run toward the bath, Anu following, her breath sharp. The streets are alive, people pressing toward the sacred pool, their voices a mix of prayers and fear. You push through, the bull seal's image burning in your mind, and reach the bath's edge, its water still, reflecting the first stars. A priest stands at the pool's center, his robe white, his hands raised, holding a clay figure, a woman, her arms wide, her face blank. The mother goddess, giver of life, taker of cities. He's chanting, his voice a river of its own, naming the drought, the god's anger, the dust that will come. The crowd kneels, their prayers rising, and you feel the prophecies weight, like the Sarasvati is drying before your eyes. The priest's chant grows, and you see something in the water, a ripple not from wind, but from below, like the earth is breathing or dying. The clay figure gleams, its blank face watching, and you feel the gods' gaze, their demand for surrender, for sacrifice, for an end. You clutch Anu's hand, her fingers cold, and feel the rumble again, stronger, shaking the bricks beneath you. The priest's voice falters, the crowd gasps, and you realize this is no ritual, no omen. It's the prophecy, unfolding now, the earth's warning, the god's verdict. You want to run, to drag Anu to the fields, to weave a life beyond this city. But the crowd is a tide, and your feet are rooted, like the sacred tree on Ravi's staff. The clay figure's face seems to shift, its blankness a mirror, and you see your own fear, your doubt, your choice. Do you kneel, join the prayer, and offer your surrender, hoping to appease the god's dust? Or do you pull Anu away, defy the ritual, and risk the earth's wrath, knowing your flight could mark you as the one the gods bury first? You kneel, your knees sinking into the dirt, your hands still in Anu's, but your heart is silent, your eyes on the ripple, the figure, the stars. The priests chant resumes, the crowd prays, and the rumble fades. But you know it's not over, not yet. The river's silence, the dry wells, the bull seal. They're here, in the water, the clay, your trembling hands. You understand, as the crowd presses close, why the Indus prophecy is a death sentence. Not just the dust, the gods, the end, but the choices that bind you, the surrender that cuts you, the city you can't save. The bath reflects the stars, the earth hums, and Ravi's tree is a shadow, its branches spiraling toward oblivion. You're a weaver in Mohenjo-Daro, and the world is already crumbling, its dust in your threads. The midnight air is a cold blade, slicing through the Andean highlands as you huddle in a stone-walled chamber, your hands clutching a bundle of knotted cords, their intricate patterns trembling in the torchlight. The air smells of damp earth, coca leaves, and the faint, acrid tang of charred quinoa from a ritual fire. Your cloak, woven from alpaca wool, is heavy with dew, and your breath clouds in the chill, each exhale a fleeting ghost. You're a Quipicameac, a keeper of the Quipu, in the Inca city of Cusco, 1450 CE, and the world feels like it's unraveling, as if the mountains themselves are whispering of an end. The city sleeps below, its thatched roof silent, but the temple of Inti, the sun god, hums with a tension that keeps you awake, your fingers tracing the chords, their knots a language of prophecy, of doom. You sit on a reed mat, the chamber's walls carved with serpents and stars, their shapes flickering in the torch's glow. The quipu is your life, its colored chords and knots recording harvests, tributes, and now something darker, a warning from the priests, a vision of a sky that will bleed, of a sun that will fade, of a world that will shatter under the god's wrath. You've heard the tales, passed down through generations. When the balance of the cosmos fails, when Pachamama, the Earth Mother, is neglected, the heavens will collapse, and the Inca will be dust. Your task is to record the omens, to weave the priest's words into the quipu, but the knots feel like a noose, tightening with every twist. The chamber is quiet, save for the crackle of the torch and the distant howl of wind through the mountains. Your fingers move, tying a knot for a comet seen last week, its tail a red slash across the sky. Another for the quakes that shook the terraces, small but frequent, like the earth's pulse quickening. You're not a priest, not a warrior, just a keeper of chords, but the prophecy is yours to carry. Its weight heavier than the stones of Sacsayhuaman. You think of your old life, of doomsday threads on screens, but those were distant, dismissible. Here, the end is real in the knots, the stars, the wind's uneasy song. You pause, the quipu trembling, and feel the gods watching, their eyes in the shadows, their judgment in the chords. A figure enters, his footsteps soft but deliberate, his silhouette stark against the torchlight. He's not a priest, not a noble, but a man, his cloak adorned with condor feathers, his face marked with red ochre in swirling patterns. His name is Quispe, a shaman, or so the whispers say, a man who walks the spirit world, speaking to Inti and Pachamama in dreams. His eyes are deep like the mountain lakes, and he carries a small coca leaf bundle, its scent sharp in the chill. You feel his gaze, not on the quipu, but on you, like he sees the prophecy in your trembling fingers, your knotted cords. The sun grows weak, he says, his voice low, like the rumble of a distant quake. Do you feel its shadow? You swallow, your throat dry, and clutch the quipu, its cords digging into your palms. I record what the priests say, you reply cautious, but the words feel thin, and Quispe's smile is a flicker, cold as the night. The priests speak, he says, but the mountains listen. The gods are tired, the balance broken. The sky will bleed, and Cusco will fall. Will you not their truth or yours? He sets the coca bundle on the mat, its leaves gleaming, and you notice a small stone tied to it, carved with a condor, its wings spread, its eyes tiny chips of obsidian. It's not a gift, not a charm, but a weight, like the quipu, carrying the prophecy's burden. You want to ask, to demand what he sees, but his eyes hold you, and you feel the mountains pulse, their silence, their end. You return to the quipu, your fingers tying a knot for the priest's latest omen, a star that vanished, its light snuffed like a torch. The condor stone watches, its obsidian eyes glinting, and you feel Inti's gaze, his sun fading, his anger rising. The chamber's walls seem to close in, the serpent's carvings writhing, and you think of your wife, your son, asleep in your hut, their lives tied to yours, to the quipu, to the gods. You want to believe the prophecy is wrong, that the sun will rise, that the mountains will stand, but the knots tell a different story. Their patterns, a map of doom. The torch flickers, and you smell the coca, its bitterness mingling with the earth. And you wonder if Quispe's dreams are true, if the sky will bleed, if your cords are a futile thread in the god's loom. A low chant rises from the temple, soft but growing. A priest's voice naming Inti, Pachamama, the balance that must be restored. You pause, the quipu heavy, and hear footsteps, not Quispe's, but others, climbing the temple steps. The chant grows, and you realize it's a ritual, a plea to delay the end, to strengthen the sun with offerings, blood, quinoa, perhaps a life. You stand, the quipu in your hands, and step to the chamber's doorway, the night air sharp against your face. The temple's courtyard is alive with torchlight, priests in feathered cloaks circling a stone altar, their hands raised, their voices a storm. At the altar's center is a golden disc, Inti's face, its surface etched with rays, its edges stained with what might be blood. The crowd is small nobles and priests, their faces grim, their prayers desperate. You see a figure at the altar's edge, not a priest but a girl, no older than your son, her cloak plain, her eyes wide with fear. She's holding a llama's lead, the animal calm but trembling. And you realize she's part of the ritual. Her role unclear. Witness, offering, or something worse. The priests chant names the sky's blood, the earth's quakes, the end that comes. And you feel the prophecies weight, like the mountains are crumbling. There stones your heart. The golden disc gleams, Inti's rays sharp, and you see the condor stones twin at the altar, its obsidian eyes watching, tying you to Kispe, to the girl, to the gods. The girl's eyes meet yours, a fleeting glance, and you see her fear, her youth, her life hanging like a knot in the quipu. The priest's knives flash, not yet raised, but ready, and you know the sacrifice is coming, whether it's the llama, the girl, or something else. The chant peaks, the torchlight sways, and you feel the earth shift, a faint tremor, like the quakes in your knots, the gods' warning, their demand. You want to run, to drop the quipu, and flee to your hut, to hold your son, to weave a life beyond this city. But the chamber is a cage, and your feet are rooted, like the cords that bind you. The condor stone's eyes gleam, and you feel the gods' hunger, their need for balance, for blood, for an end. You step back, the quipu trembling, and return to the mat, your fingers tying a knot for the girl, for her fear, for the ritual you can't unsee. The chant grows, the tremor fades, but the air is heavier, the night darker, like the sky is bleeding already. You think of Kispe's words. Will you not their truth or yours? And wonder if your quipu is a lie, a prayer, a curse. Do you stay, finish the knots, and record the priest's prophecy, offering your faith to Inti's fading light? Or do you untie the cords, reject the ritual, and risk the god's wrath, knowing your defiance could mark you as the one the mountains crush? The choice is a quake, splitting your soul, and you're already falling. You tie the knot, your fingers steady, but your heart wild, and the quipu grows, its cords a map of doom. The priest's chant echoes, the girl's eyes linger, and the condor stone watches, its obsidian a mirror of your fear. You feel the mountains stirring, the sun weakening, and you know the prophecy is no myth, no dream. It's here in the knots, the altar, your trembling hands. You think of your son, your wife, your life, and wonder if they're enough, if anything is. The torch burns, the wind howls, and Kispe's coca leaves are a shadow, their bitterness your truth. You understand, as the chant presses close, why the Inca prophecy is a death sentence, not just the quakes, the gods, the end, but the knots you tie, the balance you break, the light you can't save. You're a Quipucamaic in Cusco, and the world is already fading, its cords in your hands. The dawn is a fragile thread, weaving pale light through the mist-shrouded hills of ancient China as you stand in a bamboo grove, your hands clutching a bundle of yarrow stalks, their dry tips trembling in the morning chill. The air is sharp with the scent of dew, pine, and the faint musky tang of oracle bones burning in a nearby shrine. Your robe, patched linen tied with a hemp cord, brushes the damp earth, and your breath catches in the cold, each exhale a fleeting prayer. You're a diviner's apprentice in the Shang dynasty, 1200 BCE, tasked with reading the heavens, and the world feels like it's tilting, as if the yellow river, flowing beyond the grove, is murmuring of a cycle that will end in chaos. The village below is waking, oxen lowing, pottery clinking, voices soft. But there's a weight in the air, a prophecy of a sky that will fall, of a dynasty that will crumble, of a world that will unravel when the mandate of heaven is lost. You kneel, spreading the yarrow stalks on a flat stone, their arrangement a ritual you've practiced but never mastered. Your master, a diviner named Wei, has taught you the I Ching, the Book of Changes, its hexagrams a map of fate. But today, the stalks are for a darker purpose, to confirm the priest's vision of an end. When the heavens withdraw their favor, the earth rebels, and the Shang fall to dust. You've seen the oracle bones, their cracks red as omens, and heard the whispers. The gods are restless, the stars misaligned, the river rising. Your task is to cast the stalks, to draw a hexagram, to see if the priests are right, but the stalks feel heavy, like they're tying you to a truth you don't want. The grove is quiet, save for the rustle of bamboo and the distant crackle of the shrine's fire. Your fingers move, sorting the stalks, counting in groups of 4, your breath steady, but your heart uneven. You're not a priest, not a noble, just an apprentice. But the prophecy is yours to face. Its weight heavier than the bronze vessels in the king's palace. You think of your old life, of scrolling through apocalyptic threads, but those were distant, theoretical. Here, the end is real, in the stalks, the bones, the river's restless hum. You pause, the hexagram half-formed, and feel the gods watching, their eyes in the mist, their judgment in the stalks. A figure emerges from the grove, his steps silent on the fallen leaves, his silhouette stark against the dawn. He's not a priest, not a warrior, but a man, his robe gray, his hair bound with a bone pin, his face etched with lines like the cracks in oracle bones. His name is Lao, a hermit, or so the villagers say, a man who lives on the hill, speaking to the spirits in the wind. His eyes are pale, almost blind, but they see too much, and he carries a turtle shell, its surface polished, its underside marked with faint burns. You feel his gaze, not on the stalks, but on you, like he sees the prophecy in your trembling hands, your knotted fate. The heavens are shifting, he says, his voice low, like the river's flow. Do you see their fall? You swallow, your throat tight, and clutch the stalks, their tips pricking your palms. I see what the priests command, you reply cautious, but the words feel hollow, and Lao's smile is a shadow, soft but sharp. The priests command, he says, but the earth answers. The gods are weary, the cycle broken. The sky will fall, and the shang will be ash. Will you cast their truth or yours? He sets the turtle shell beside the stone, its burns forming a hexagram. Can the abyss, water over water, danger unending? It's not a gift, not a charm, but a weight, like the stalks, carrying the prophecy's burden. You want to ask, to demand what he sees, but his eyes hold you, and you feel the river's pulse, its silence, its end. You return to the stalks, your fingers sorting, counting, the hexagram taking shape, Li, the clinging, fire over fire, a blaze that consumes. The turtle shell watches, its burns a mirror of your fear, and you feel the gods' gaze, their mandate fading, their anger rising. The grove's mist thickens, the bamboo swaying, and you think of your mother, your brother, in the village below, their lives tied to yours, to the stalks, to the gods. You want to believe the prophecy is wrong, that the heavens will hold, that the river will stay, but the hexagram tells a different story. Its lines a map of chaos. The shrine's smoke drifts, mingling with the pine, and you wonder if Lao's spirits are true, if the sky will fall, if your stalks are a futile thread in the god's weave. A low drumbeat rises from the shrine, steady but growing, a priest's call to the faithful. You pause, the stalks trembling, and hear voices, not Lao's but others, chanting through the mist. The drum grows, and you realize it's a ritual, a plea to restore the mandate of heaven, to delay the end with offerings, bones, blood, perhaps a life. You stand, the yarrow stalks in your hands, and step through the grove, the mist parting like a veil. The shrine is a stone platform, its altar blackened with ash, priests in white robes circling a bronze tripod, their hands raised, their voices a storm. At the altar center is a bone, a cow's scapula, its surface cracked from a fire, its lines a hexagram you can't read but feel. Qian, the creative, heaven over heaven, or perhaps Kuan, the receptive, earth over earth, submission to fate. The crowd is small, villagers and scribes, their faces taut, their prayers desperate. You see a figure at the altar's edge, not a priest but a woman, her robe plain, her hair loose, her hands clutching a clay jar. She's older, her face lined like the river's banks, and you realize she's part of the ritual. Her role unclear, witness, offering, or something worse. The priest's chant names the sky's fall, the earth's rebellion, the end that comes, and you feel the prophecy's weight, like the yellow river is rising to drown you. The bronze tripod smokes, its ash sharp, and you see the turtle shells twin at the altar. It burns a mirror of Laos, tying you to him, to the woman, to the gods. The woman's eyes meet yours, a fleeting glance, and you see her resolve, her fear, her life hanging like a stalk in the hexagram. The priest's knives gleam, not yet raised, but ready, and you know the sacrifice is coming, whether it's the bone, the woman, or something else. The drum peaks, the mist sways, and you feel the earth tremble, a faint quake, like the omens in your stalks, the gods' warning, their demand. You want to run, to drop the stalks and flee to the village, to hold your brother, to cast a life beyond this grove. But the shrine is a cage, and your feet are rooted, like the bamboo that binds you. The turtle shells burns gleam, and you feel the gods' hunger, their need for submission, for blood, for an end. You step back, the stalks trembling, and return to the stone, your fingers casting the final count, the hexagram complete. The chant grows, the quake fades, but the air is heavier, the dawn colder, like the sky is falling already. You think of Lao's words. Will you cast their truth or yours? And wonder if your hexagram is a lie, a prayer, a curse. Do you finish the ritual, record the priest's prophecy, and offer your faith to the heavens' fading mandate? Or do you scatter the stalks, reject the omens, and risk the god's wrath, knowing your defiance could mark you as the one the earth swallows first? The choice is a crack, splitting your soul, and you're already falling. You cast the hexagram, your fingers steady, but your heart wild, and the stalks firmly, its fire a truth you can't deny. The priest's chant echoes, the woman's eyes linger, and the turtle shell watches. It burns a mirror of your fate. You feel the river rising, the heavens shifting, and you know the prophecy is no myth, no dream. It's here, in the stalks, the altar, your trembling hands. You think of your brother, your mother, your life, and wonder if they're enough, if anything is. The shrine burns, the mist hums, and Lao's shell is a shadow, its cracks spiraling toward chaos. You understand, as the chant presses close, why the Shang prophecy is a death sentence. Not just the chaos, the gods, the end, but the stalks you cast, the mandate you break, the heavens you can't save. You're a diviner's apprentice in Anyang, and the world is already unraveling, its cracks in your hands. The twilight is a restless veil, cloaking the Yucatan jungle in a haze of emerald and shadow as you crouch beside a cenote, your hands trembling as you trace the glyphs on a limestone stela. The air is thick with the scent of damp moss, orchids, and the faint, metallic tang of blood from a recent offering. Your tunic, woven from cotton and stained with sweat, clings to your skin, and your breath catches in the humidity, each inhale heavy with the jungle's pulse. You're a scribe's apprentice in the Maya city of Tikal, 750 CE, tasked with recording the long count, and the world feels like it's fraying, as if the stars above the canopy are aligning for an end. The city hums beyond the trees, drums beating, voices chanting, torches flickering. But there's a dread beneath it, a prophecy of a cycle's close, when the gods will turn, the sky will darken, and the world will be reborn in ruin. You press your fingers to the stela, its glyphs cool and slick, their curves telling of backtons, katuns, and a date, 13.0.0.0.0, when the fourth creation will end, the gods will judge, and the earth will tremble. You've heard the priest's warnings, carved into stone and whispered in the plazas. The hero twins failed to appease the lords of Zabalba, and now the cycle nears its close, bringing chaos, darkness, a world unmade. Your task is to copy the glyphs, to ensure the prophecy's truth is preserved, But the stela feels alive, its stone pulsing like the cenote's water, and you wonder if your chisel is etching your own doom. The jungle is alive, monkeys howling, leaves rustling, the cenote's ripples lapping, but it's not comforting. It's a chorus of warning, as if the gods are already stirring. You shift, your knees sinking into the moss, and adjust the bark paper on your lap, its surface smeared with red ochre for the glyphs you'll paint. You're not a priest, not a king, just an apprentice, but the prophecy is yours to bear, its weight heavier than the jade ornaments of the elite. You think of your old life, of apocalyptic posts on feeds, but those were distant, mocked. Here, the end is real, in the glyphs, the stars, the cenote's glassy stare. You dip your brush in the ochre, your hand unsteady, and begin to copy, the glyphs taking shape, serpents, skulls, a jaguar's jaw. Each stroke is a prayer, but you're not sure it's enough. Not when the gods are turning their backs, their faces carved in shadow. A figure emerges from the jungle, her steps silent on the tangled roots, her silhouette stark against the torchlight filtering through the trees. She's not a priestess, not a noble, but a woman, her hair braided with feathers, her face painted with blue spirals that glow like the cenote's depths. Her name is Ixchel, or so the whispers call her, a seer who speaks to the moon goddess, reading omens in the tides and the cries of owls. Her eyes are sharp like obsidian, and she carries a small clay vessel, its surface etched with a maize god's face, its contents hidden, but smelling of copal and blood. You feel her gaze, not on the stela, but on you, like she sees the prophecy in your trembling brush, your painted glyphs. The cycle ends, she says, her voice low, like the cenote's ripples. Do you see its shadow? You pause, the brush dripping ochre, and meet her eyes, your throat tight. I write what the priests command, you say cautious, but the words feel brittle, and Ixchel's smile is a flicker, cold as the water below. The priests command, she says, but the stars obey. The gods are weary, the cycle broken. The sky will darken, and Tikal will be vines. Will you carve their truth or yours? She sets the clay vessel beside the stela, its maize god's eyes glinting, and you notice a small shell tied to it, carved with a spiral, its curves a mirror of her face paint. It's not a gift, not a charm, but a weight, like the glyphs, carrying the prophecy's burden. You want to ask, to demand what she sees, but her eyes hold you, and you feel the cenote's pulse, its silence, its end. You return to the bark paper, your brush tracing the jaguar's jaw, but your mind is on Ixchel, her words, the prophecy. The jungle's chorus grows, bats screeching, branches snapping, the cenote's water stirring, and you feel the cycle's weight, like the stars are falling. There light your blood. You think of your father, your sister, in the city's heart, their lives tied to yours, to the glyphs, to the gods. You want to believe the prophecy is wrong, that the fourth creation will hold, that the jungle will stand, but the glyphs tell a different story. Their shapes, a map of ruin. The torch flickers, its smoke mingling with the moss, and you wonder if Ixchel's omens are true, if the sky will darken, if your brush is a futile stroke in the god's codex. A low chant rises from the city, deep and rhythmic, a priest's voice naming Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, the god who binds the cycle. You pause, the bark paper trembling, and hear footsteps, not Ixchel's but others, moving through the jungle toward the great plaza. The chant grows, and you realize it's a ritual, a plea to delay the end, to appease the gods with offerings, maize, blood, perhaps a life. You stand, the bark paper in your hands, and step through the trees, the cenote's ripples following you like a shadow. The plaza is a sea of torchlight, priests and jaguar pelts circling a stone altar, their hands raised, their voices a storm. At the altar's center is a stela, taller than yours, its glyphs gleaming, depicting a king, his scepter raised, his eyes fixed on a sky of serpents. The crowd is dense, nobles and artisans. their faces painted, their prayers desperate. You see a figure at the altar's edge, not a priest, but a boy, no older than your sister, his tunic plain, his hands clutching a maize cob, its kernels red as blood. He's part of the ritual, his role unclear, witness, offering, or something worse. The priest chant names the cycle's end, the god's judgment, the darkness that comes, and you feel the prophecies weight, like the jungle is closing. It binds your heart. The stela's glyphs glow, Kukulkan's serpent coiling, and you see the shell's twin at the altar. Its spiral a mirror of Ixchel's, tying you to her, to the boy, to the gods. The boy's eyes meet yours, a fleeting glance, and you see his fear, his youth, his life hanging like a glyph on the stela. The priest's obsidian knives flash, not yet raised, but ready, and you know the sacrifice is coming, whether it's the maize, the boy, or something else. The chant peaks, the torchlight sways, and you feel the earth tremble, a faint quake, like the omens in your glyphs, the gods' warning, their demand. You want to run, to drop the bark paper, and flee to your hut, to hold your sister, to paint a life beyond this city. But the plaza is a cage, and your feet are rooted, like the ceiba tree that binds you. The shell's spiral gleams, and you feel the gods' hunger, their need for renewal, for blood, for an end. You step back, the bark paper trembling, and return to the cenote, your brush painting the final glyph, the jaguar's jaw complete. The chant grows, the quake fades, but the air is heavier, the twilight darker, like the sky is darkening already. You think of Ixchel's words. Will you carve their truth or yours? And wonder if your glyphs are a lie, a prayer, a curse. Do you finish the ritual, record the priest's prophecy, and offer your faith to Kukulkan's fading cycle? Or do you tear the bark paper, reject the omens, and risk the god's wrath, knowing your defiance could mark you as the one the jungle claims first? The choice is a knife, splitting your soul, and you're already falling. You paint the glyph, your fingers steady but your heart wild, and the bark paper grows. It shapes a map of ruin. The priest's chant echoes, the boy's eyes linger, and the shell watches, its spiral a mirror of your fate. You feel the stars aligning, the cycle turning, and you know the prophecy is no myth, no dream. It's here in the glyphs, the altar, your trembling hands. You think of your sister, your father, your life, and wonder if they're enough, if anything is. The torch burns, the jungle hums, and Ixchel's vessel is a shadow. It's May's God's eyes your truth. You understand, as the chant presses close, why the Maya prophecy is a death sentence. Not just the darkness, the gods, the end, but the glyphs you paint, the cycle you break, the stars you can't save. You're a scribe's apprentice in Tikal, and the world is already unraveling, its serpents in your hands. The noon sun is a relentless forge, hammering the Mesopotamian plain as you stand in a reed-lined courtyard, your hands clutching a clay tablet, its surface still soft from the stylus's bite. The air is heavy with the scent of baked earth, tamarisk smoke, and the faint, sour tang of fermenting barley from a nearby brewery. Your tunic, a coarse linen wrap, sticks to your sweat-soaked skin, and your sandal-clad feet shift on the warm bricks, each movement a reminder of the ground's unforgiving heat. You're a scribe's apprentice in the Babylonian city of Nippur, 600 BCE, tasked with copying sacred texts, and the world feels like it's teetering, as if the Tigris, flowing just beyond the city's walls, is murmuring of a fire that will consume all. The courtyard hums with life, scribes muttering, styluses scratching, doves cooing. But there's a shadow beneath it, a prophecy of a sky that will blaze, of gods who will judge, of a world that will end in ash. You press the stylus into the tablet, its wedges forming hymns to Marduk. But your task today is darker, to record a priest's vision of the end, when Anu, god of the heavens, will unleash a fire to purge the earth, leaving only those marked by the gods to rebuild. You've heard the tales whispered in the ziggurat shadow, The stars will align, the earth will quake, and Babylon's glory will be cinders, its people judged for their hubris. Your tablet is meant for the temple archives, a warning for generations. But its clay feels alive, like it's soaking up your fear, your doubt, your trembling hand. The courtyard's heat is stifling, the smoke curling like a warning, and you wonder if your wedges are etching your own fate, not just the gods. You pause, wiping sweat from your brow, and glance at the Tigris, its waters glinting through the courtyard's gate, a bronze ribbon under the sun. Your master, a scribe named Belshazzar, is at another table, his stylus precise, his face unreadable. But you know he feels the prophecy too. His prayers to Nabu, god of wisdom, are longer, his offerings more frequent. You're not a priest, not a king, just an apprentice. But the prophecy is yours to bear, its weight heavier than the bronze gates of the city. You think of your old life, of doomsday scrolls on screens, but those were distant, ignored. Here, the end is real, in the tablet, the stars, the Tigris's restless hum. You resume your wedges, the clay yielding, but your heart is unsteady, and you feel the gods watching, their eyes in the smoke, their judgment in the script. A figure steps into the courtyard, his sandals silent on the bricks, his silhouette stark against the sun's glare. He's not a priest, not a noble, but a man, his robe a deep indigo, his beard braided with silver threads that catch the light. His name is Ayusadra, or so the whispers call him, a soothsayer who reads the gods will in the flight of birds and the cracks of clay. His eyes are sharp like a hawk's, and he carries a small censer, its smoke trailing copal, its scent sharp in the heat. You feel his gaze, not on the tablet, but on you, like he sees the prophecy in your trembling stylus, your carved wedges. The fire comes, he says, his voice low, like the Tigris's flow. Do you feel its heat? You swallow, your throat parched, and clutch the tablet, its clay warm against your palms. I write what the priests dictate, you reply cautious, but the words feel frail, and Zeusadra's smile is a flicker, hot as the sun. The priests dictate, he says, but the stars command. The gods are angry, the balance broken. The sky will blaze, and the poor will be ash. Will you carve their truth or yours? He sets the censer beside your table, its smoke curling like a serpent, and you notice a small seal tied to it, carved with a lion, its mane a spiral, its eyes tiny chips of lapis. It's not a gift, not a charm, but a weight, like the tablet, carrying the prophecy's burden. You want to ask, to demand what he sees, but his eyes hold you, and you feel the Tigris's pulse, its silence, its end. You return to the tablet, your stylus pressing wedges, but your mind is on Zeusadra, his words, the prophecy. The courtyard's hum grows distant, the Tigris's silence louder, and you feel the fire's weight, like the sun is burning your blood. You think of your wife, your daughter, in the city's heart, their lives tied to yours, to the tablet, to the gods. You want to believe the prophecy is wrong, that the heavens will hold, that the river will stay, but the wedges tell a different story. Their shape's a map of ash. The censer's smoke stings your eyes, mingling with the tamarisk, and you wonder if Zeusadra's visions are true, if the sky will blaze, if your tablet is a futile scratch in the god's archive. A low wail rises from the ziggurat, sharp and mournful, a priest's call to the faithful. You pause, the tablet trembling, and hear footsteps, not Zeusadra's, but others, rushing through the streets toward the temple. The wail grows, and you realize it's a ritual, a plea to delay the end, to appease anew with offerings, incense, blood, perhaps a life. You stand, the tablet in your hands, and step to the courtyard's gate, the heat pressing like a god's hand. The ziggurat steps are alive with torchlight, priests in white robes circling a stone altar, their hands raised, their voices a storm. At the altar center is a bronze statue, Marduk's dragon, its scales gleaming, its eyes red as the fire that will come. The crowd is dense, scribes and merchants, their faces painted with ash, their prayers desperate. You see a figure at the altar's edge, not a priest but a man, his tunic plain, his hands clutching a clay jar, its surface wet with oil. He's older, his face lined like the Tigris's banks, and you realize he's part of the ritual. His role unclear, witness, offering, or something worse. The priest chant names the sky's fire, the god's judgment, the end that comes, and you feel the prophecies weight, like the Tigris is rising to drown you. The dragon statue glows, Marduk's eyes burning, and you see the seals twin at the altar. Its lion a mirror of Ziusadra's, tying you to him, to the man, to the gods. The man's eyes meet yours, a fleeting glance, and you see his resolve, his fear, his life hanging like a wedge on the tablet. The priest's bronze knives flash, not yet raised, but ready, and you know the sacrifice is coming, whether it's the oil, the man, or something else. The chant peaks, the torchlight sways, and you feel the earth tremble, a faint quake, like the omens in your wedges, the gods' warning, their demand. You want to run, to drop the tablet and flee to your hut, to hold your daughter, to carve a life beyond this city. But the courtyard is a cage, and your feet are rooted, like the reeds that bind you. The lion seal's eyes gleam, and you feel the gods' hunger, their need for judgment, for blood, for an end. You step back, the tablet trembling, and return to the table, your stylus pressing the final wedge, the hymn complete. The chant grows, the quake fades, but the air is heavier, the noon hotter, like the sky is blazing already. You think of Ziusadra's words. Will you carve their truth or yours? And wonder if your tablet is a lie, a prayer, a curse. Do you finish the ritual, record the priest's prophecy, and offer your faith to Marduk's fading fire? Or do you break the tablet, reject the omens, and risk the god's wrath, knowing your defiance could mark you as the one the fire claims first? The choice is a flame, searing your soul, and you're already burning. You carve the wedge, your fingers steady, but your heart wild. And the tablet grows, it shapes a map of ash. The priest's chant echoes, the man's eyes linger, and the lion's seal watches, its lapis a mirror of your fate. You feel the stars aligning, the fire stirring, and you know the prophecy is no myth, no dream. It's here, in the wedges, the altar, your trembling hands. You think of your daughter, your wife, your life, and wonder if they're enough, if anything is. The censer burns, the Tigris hums, and Ziusadra's seal is a shadow, its lion's mane spiraling toward ruin. You understand, as the chant presses close, why the Babylonian prophecy is a death sentence. Not just the fire, the gods, the end, but the wedges you carve, the balance you break, the heavens you can't save. You're a scribe's apprentice in Nippur, and the world is already smoldering, its ashes in your hands. The dusk is a creeping shadow, draping the Nile Delta in a veil of violet and silt as you kneel on a mud brick rooftop, your hands sifting through a basket of papyrus strips, their edges frayed from the river's damp kiss. The air is thick with a scent of lotus blossoms, fish, and the faint, acrid tang of burning myrrh from a nearby shrine. Your linen kilt, stained with ink and sweat, clings to your thighs, and your bare feet press against the warm bricks, each shift a reminder of the earth's restless pulse. You're a scribe's apprentice in the Egyptian city of Memphis, 1200 BCE, tasked with recording temple hymns, and the world feels like it's unraveling, as if the Nile, flowing just beyond the city's walls, is whispering of a chaos that will swallow all. The city hums below, barges creaking, vendors shouting, ibises calling. But there's a dread beneath it, a prophecy of a sky that will shatter, of gods who will turn, of a world that will end in disorder. You sort the papyrus, your fingers tracing hieroglyphs that praise Ammonius Ra, but your task today is heavier, to copy a priest's vision of the end, when Ma'at, goddess of order, will falter, the heavens will crack, and Egypt will be dust under the god's wrath. You've heard the tales whispered in the temple's shadow. The stars will misalign, the Nile will dry, and the two lands will fracture, their people judged for their imbalance. Your papyrus is meant for the house of life, a warning for eternity. But its fibers feel alive, like they're soaking up your fear, your doubt, your trembling hand. The rooftop's heat lingers, the myrrh smoke curling like a warning, and you wonder if your hieroglyphs are etching your own fate, not just the gods. You pause, wiping sweat from your brow, and glance at the Nile, its waters glinting through the city's sprawl, a silver thread under the fading sun. Your master, a scribe named Thomas, is in the temple, his stylus precise, his face unreadable. But you know he feels the prophecy too. His offerings to Thoth, god of writing, are more frequent, his prayers longer. You're not a priest, not a pharaoh, just an apprentice. But the prophecy is yours to bear, its weight heavier than the obelisks of Karnak. You think of your old life, of doomsday warnings on screens, but those were distant, scoffed at. Here, the end is real in the papyrus, the stars, the Nile's uneasy hum. You resume your hieroglyphs, the ink yielding, but your heart is unsteady, and you feel the gods watching, their eyes in the smoke, their judgment in the script. A figure climbs the rooftop's ladder, her steps soft but deliberate, her silhouette stark against the twilight's glow. She's not a priestess, not a noble, but a woman, her linen dress adorned with faience beads, her face painted with ochre in patterns like the Nile's ripples. Her name is Nefertari, or so the whispers call her, a seer who reads the gods' will in the river's flow and the flight of herons. Her eyes are deep like the Nile's depths, and she carries a small reed basket, its contents hidden but smelling of myrrh and lotus. You feel her gaze, not on the papyrus, but on you, like she sees the prophecy in your trembling brush, your inked hieroglyphs. The order breaks, she says, her voice low, like the river's murmur. Do you feel its fracture? You swallow, your throat parched, and clutch the papyrus, its fibers rough against your palms. I write with a priest's dictate, you reply cautious, but the words feel thin, and Nefertari's smile is a flicker, cool as the evening breeze. The priests dictate, she says, but the Nile speaks. The gods are weary, the balance broken. The sky will crack, and Memphis will be sand. Will you ink their truth or yours? She sets the reed basket beside your papyrus, its lotus scent sharp, and you notice a small amulet tied to it, carved with an ankh, its cross gleaming, its loop a mirror of the stars. It's not a gift, not a charm, but a weight, like the papyrus, carrying the prophecy's burden. You want to ask, to demand what she sees, but her eyes hold you, and you feel the Nile's pulse, its silence, its end. You return to the papyrus, your brush tracing the owl of Mayan, but your mind is on Nefertari, her words, the prophecy. The city's hum grows distant, the Nile's silence louder, and you feel the chaos's weight, like the river is drying your blood. You think of your mother, your brother, in the city's heart, their lives tied to yours, to the papyrus, to the gods. You want to believe the prophecy is wrong, that the order will hold, that the Nile will flow, but the hieroglyphs tell a different story. Their shapes a map of ruin. The myrrh smoke stings your eyes, mingling with the lotus, and you wonder if Nefertari's visions are true, if the sky will crack, if your brush is a futile stroke in the god scroll. A low chant rises from the temple, deep and rhythmic, a priest's voice naming Amonisare Ma'at, the balance that must be restored. You pause, the papyrus trembling, and hear footsteps, not Nefertari's, but others, moving through the streets toward the shrine. The chant grows, and you realize it's a ritual, a plea to delay the end, to appease the gods with offerings, incense, blood, perhaps a life. You stand, the papyrus in your hands, and step to the rooftop's edge, the city sprawling below, its torches flickering like stars. The temple's courtyard is alive with light, priests in white kilts circling a stone altar, their hands raised, their voices a storm. At the altar's center is a golden scarab, Khepri's symbol, its wings gleaming, its eyes red as the chaos that will come. The crowd is dense, scribes and artisans, their faces painted with coal, their prayers desperate. You see a figure at the altar's edge, not a priest but a girl, her kilt plain, her hair loose, her hands clutching a lotus flower, its petals wilting in the heat. She's young, her face soft but resolute, and you realize she's part of the ritual. Her role unclear, witness, offering, or something worse. The priests chant names, the skies crack, the god's judgment, the end that comes, and you feel the prophecies weight, like the Nile is receding, its waters your heart. The scarab glows, Khepri's eyes burning, and you see the amulet's twin at the altar, its ankh a mirror of Nefertari's, tying you to her, to the girl, to the gods. The girl's eyes meet yours, a fleeting glance, and you see her courage, her fear, her life hanging like a hieroglyph on the papyrus. The priest's obsidian knives flash, not yet raised, but ready, and you know the sacrifice is coming, whether it's the lotus, the girl, or something else. The chant peaks, the torchlight sways, and you feel the earth tremble, a faint quake, like the omens in your hieroglyphs, the gods' warning, their demand. You want to run, to drop the papyrus and flee to your hut, to hold your brother, to ink a life beyond this city. But the rooftop is a cage, and your feet are rooted, like the lotus that binds you. The ankh's loop gleams, and you feel the gods' hunger, their need for order, for blood, for an end. You step back, the papyrus trembling, and return to the basket, your brush painting the final glyph, the owl complete. The chant grows, the quake fades, but the air is heavier, the dusk darker, like the sky is cracking already. You think of Nefertari's words. Will you ink their truth or yours? And wonder if your papyrus is a lie, a prayer, a curse. Do you finish the ritual, record the priest's prophecy, and offer your faith to Maat's fading order? Or do you tear the papyrus, reject the omens, and risk the god's wrath, knowing your defiance could mark you as the one the chaos claims first? The choice is a crack, splitting your soul, and you're already falling. You paint the glyph, your fingers steady but your heart wild, and the papyrus grows. It shapes a map of disorder. The priest's chant echoes, the girl's eyes linger, and the ankh watches, its loop a mirror of your fate. You feel the stars misaligning, the chaos stirring, and you know the prophecy is no myth, no dream. It's here in the hieroglyphs, the altar, your trembling hands. You think of your brother, your mother, your life, and wonder if they're enough, if anything is. The myrrh burns, the Nile hums, and Nefertari's amulet is a shadow. Its ankhs cross your truth. You understand, as the chant presses close, why the Egyptian prophecy is a death sentence. Not just the chaos, the gods, the end, but the glyphs you paint, the order you break, the heavens you can't save. You're a scribe's apprentice in Memphis, and the world is already fracturing, its cracks in your hands. The midnight air is a heavy shroud, cloaking the Ganges plain in a mist of silver and shadow as you sit on a woven mat in a riverside hut, your hands clutching a palm leaf inscribed with Sanskrit verses, their ink still wet from your reed pen. The air smells of sandalwood, river mud, and the faint, bitter tang of ghee burning in a clay lamp. Your dhoti, a simple cotton wrap, is damp with the night's humidity, and your bare feet press against the cool earth floor, each shift a reminder of the ground's ancient pulse. You're a scholar's apprentice in the Vedic city of Varanasi, 500 BCE, tasked with copying sacred hymns, and the world feels like it's trembling, as if the Ganges, flowing just outside the hut's reed walls, is chanting of a cycle that will end in dissolution. The city hums faintly, pilgrims bathing, priests chanting, bells ringing, but there's a dread beneath it, a prophecy of a Kali Yuga, when Dharma will collapse, the sky will burn, and the world will dissolve into Vishnu's cosmic sleep. You trace the verses, your fingers smudging the ink, their words praising Agni, god of fire. But your task tonight is heavier, to record a sage's vision of the end. When the Kali Yuga's chaos will peak, the gods will withdraw, and the universe will melt into Pralaya, the great dissolution. You've heard the tales whispered in the Goth's shadows. The stars will fade, the rivers will boil, and Varanasi's sanctity will be ash, its people judged for their failing dharma. Your palm leaf is meant for the temple library, a warning for eternity. But its fibers feel alive, like they're absorbing your fear, your doubt, your trembling hand. The lamp's flame flickers, the ghee smoke curling like a warning, and you wonder if your verses are inscribing your own fate, not just the gods. You pause, wiping sweat from your brow, and glance at the Ganges through the hut's open doorway, its waters glinting under the moon, a liquid mirror for the stars. Your master, a scholar named Yajnavalkya, is at the temple, his quill precise, his face unreadable. But you know he feels the prophecy too. His offerings to Brahma are more frequent, his mantras longer. You're not a priest, not a king, just an apprentice. But the prophecy is yours to bear, its weight heavier than the stone lingams of Kashi. You think of your old life, of end-time theories on screens, but those were distant, debated. Here, the end is real, in the palm leaf, the stars, the Ganges' restless chant. You resume your verses, the ink yielding, but your heart is unsteady, and you feel the gods watching, their eyes in the mist, their judgment in the script. A figure steps into the hut, his sandals silent on the earth, his silhouette stark against the moonlight's glow. He's not a priest, not a Brahmin, but a man, his saffron robe tied with a hemp cord, his face marked with ash in patterns like the river's ripples. His name is Siddha, or so the pilgrims call him, a wandering ascetic who reads the gods while in the Ganges' currents and the cries of peacocks. His eyes are calm like the still pools of the river, and he carries a small bronze idol, its surface etched with Vishnu's conch, its weight balanced in his palm. You feel his gaze, not on the palm leaf, but on you, like he sees the prophecy in your trembling pen, your inked verses. The cycle turns, he says, his voice low, like the Ganges' flow. Do you hear its silence? You swallow, your throat dry, and clutch the palm leaf, its fibers rough against your palms. I write what the sages dictate, you reply cautious, but the words feel fragile, and Siddha's smile is a flicker, soft as the lamp's flame. The sages dictate, he says, but the river speaks. The gods are distant, the Dharma broken. The sky will burn, and Varanasi will be dust. Will you ink their truth or yours? He sets the bronze idol beside your mat, its conch gleaming, and you notice a small bead tied to it, carved with a lotus, its petals a mirror of the stars. It's not a gift, not a charm, but a weight, like the palm leaf, carrying the prophecy's burden. You want to ask, to demand what he sees, but his eyes hold you, and you feel the Ganges' pulse, its silence, its end. You return to the palm leaf, your pen tracing the fire of Agni, but your mind is on Siddha, his words, the prophecy. The city's hum grows distant, the Ganges' silence louder, and you feel the Kali Yuga's weight, like the river is boiling your blood. You think of your sister, your father, in the city's heart, their lives tied to yours, to the palm leaf, to the gods. You want to believe the prophecy is wrong, that the cycle will hold, that the Ganges will flow, but the verses tell a different story. Their words a map of dissolution. The ghee smoke stings your eyes, mingling with the sandalwood, and you wonder if Siddha's visions are true, if the sky will burn, if your pen is a futile stroke in the gods' Veda. A low bell tolls from the Ghat, deep and resonant, a priest's call to the faithful. You pause, the palm leaf trembling, and hear footsteps, not Siddha's but others, moving through the streets toward the river. The bell grows, and you realize it's a ritual, a plea to delay the end, to restore Dharma with offerings, ghee, flowers, perhaps a life. You stand, the palm leaf in your hands, and step to the doorway, the night air cool against your face. The ghat is alive with torchlight, priests in white dhodas circling a stone lingam, their hands raised, their voices a storm. At the lingam's base is a bronze tray, Shiva's trident etched on its surface, its edges gleaming with ghee and ash. The crowd is dense, pilgrims and artisans, their faces smeared with vibhuti, their prayers desperate. You see a figure at the lingam's edge, not a priest, but a boy, his dhota plain, his hair matted, his hands clutching a marigold garland, its petals wilting in the heat. He's young, his face soft but resolute, and you realize he's part of the ritual, his role unclear, witness, offering, or something worse. The priest chant names the Kali Yuga's chaos, the god's withdrawal, the end that comes, and you feel the prophecy's weight, like the Ganges is evaporating. It waters your heart. The trident glows, Shiva's eyes burning, and you see the beads twin at the lingam, its lotus a mirror of siddhas, tying you to him, to the boy, to the gods. The boy's eyes meet yours, a fleeting glance, and you see his courage, his fear, his life hanging like a verse on the palm leaf. The priest's bronze bells ring, not yet silencing, but ready, and you know the offering is coming, whether it's the garland, the boy, or something else. The chant peaks, the torchlight sways, and you feel the earth tremble, a faint quake, like the omens in your verses, the gods' warning, their demand. You want to run, to drop the palm leaf and flee to your hut, to hold your sister, to ink a life beyond this city. But the ghat is a cage, and your feet are rooted, like the banyan tree that binds you. The lotus beads, petals gleam, and you feel the gods' hunger, their need for dissolution, for ash, for an end. You step back, the palm leaf trembling, and return to the mat, your pen inking the final verse, the fire complete. The chant grows, the quake fades, but the air is heavier, the midnight darker, like the sky is burning already. You think of Siddha's words. Will you ink their truth or yours? And wonder if your palm leaf is a lie, a prayer, a curse. Do you finish the ritual, record the sage's prophecy, and offer your faith to Vishnu's fading cycle? Or do you burn the palm leaf, reject the omens, and risk the god's wrath, knowing your defiance could mark you as the one the fire claims first? The choice is a flame searing your soul, and you're already ash. You ink the verse, your fingers steady but your heart wild, and the palm leaf grows, its words a map of pralaya. The priest's chant echoes, the boy's eyes linger, and the lotus bead watches, its petals a mirror of your fate. You feel the stars fading, the chaos stirring, and you know the prophecy is no myth, no dream. It's here in the verses, the lingam, your trembling hands. You think of your father, your sister, your life, and wonder if they're enough, if anything is. The ghee burns, the Ganges hums, and Siddha's idol is a shadow. Its conchs spiral your truth. You understand as the chant presses close why the Vedic prophecy is a death sentence. Not just the fire, the gods, the end, but the verses you ink, the dharma you break, the cycle you can't save. You're a scholar's apprentice in Varanasi, and the world is already dissolving. It's ash in your hands. The midnight sky is a shattered mirror, its stars flickering over the windswept plains of ancient Mesopotamia as you stand in a crumbling temple courtyard, your hands clutching a clay tablet, its surface etched with wedges that burn like embers in the torchlight. The air is thick with the scent of scorched tamarisk, dust, and the faint, metallic tang of blood from a ritual fire that gutters nearby. Your tunic, tattered linen stained with ink and sweat, clings to your trembling frame, and your sandal-clad feet shift on the cracked bricks, each step a reminder of the earth's restless anger. You're a scribe's apprentice in the Assyrian city of Nineveh, 650 BCE, tasked with preserving sacred omens, and the world feels like it's collapsing, as if the Euphrates, flowing beyond the city's walls, is roaring of a final judgment that will erase all. The city is silent, its streets empty, but the temple hums with a dread that claws at your soul, a prophecy of a sky that will fall, of gods who will rend, of a world that will end in a storm of divine wrath. You were summoned here by a whisper, not from a priest or a king, but from a dream vivid and cold, a voice sharp as a bronze blade, commanding you to the temple at midnight, to bring your tablet, to face the God's verdict. The tablet in your hands is no ordinary record. It's a compilation of omens, gathered from Sumer's floods, Aztec fires, Indus dust, Inca quakes, Maya darkness, Shan chaos, Babylonian ash, Vedic dissolution, and now Assyria's storm. Each prophecy a thread in a tapestry of doom. You've carried their weight through every civilization, their warnings etched into your soul. The scarab, the reed, the condor, the lotus, all signs of an end you can't escape. You could have stayed in your hut, burned the tablet, pretended you're just an apprentice, but the omens, the seers, the gods, they've marked you. And hiding is a debt you can't pay. The courtyard is a ruin, its walls pitted, its statues of winged bulls cracked, their lapis eyes glinting like they see your fear. For figures wait in the torchlight, their shadows jagged, like the claws of Shamash, god of justice. Inanna Ishtar, the Sumerian priestess, stands at the center, her ochre robes ablaze, her kohl-rimmed eyes piercing. Beside her is Tlacaelel, the Aztec seer, his quetzal cloak shimmering, his painted face a mask of fire. Ravi, the Indus wanderer, leans on his tree-carved staff, his saffron robe dusty but defiant. Siddha, the Vedic ascetic, sits cross-legged, his bronze Vishnu idol gleaming, his ash-marked face serene but heavy. They're not here to save you, not here to judge you, but to witness, to see if you'll carry the final prophecy or break under its weight. Inanna Ishtar steps forward, her voice a river of steel. You've seen the ends, she says, her eyes on the tablet. Flood, fire, dust, quake, darkness, chaos, ash, dissolution. Now Assyria speaks of a storm, when Ashur will tear the sky, and the world will be unmade. Will you write it? You feel the tablet's weight. Its wedges a confession of every prophecy you've faced, every choice you've made. Staying at rituals, inking omens, kneeling to gods you don't trust. Tlacaelel's eyes narrow, his voice a hiss. The heart must burn, he says, or the fire takes all. Choose. Ravi taps his staff, its tree a spiral of doom. The dust waits, he murmurs, but will you join it? Siddha's voice is soft, like the Ganges' flow. The cycle dissolves, he says, and you with it. What will your truth be? You look at the tablet, its clay warm, alive, and see the wedges, water, flame, earth, sky, all converging on a single sign, a storm cloud. Its edges sharp as a god's blade. The courtyard center holds an altar, a slab of basalt, its surface etched with a winged disc, Ashur symbol, its rays jagged, stained with ash and blood. Above it, a bronze brazier burns, its flames low but fierce, and you realize what they're asking. To carve the final omen, to complete the prophecy, to offer the tablet to the fire, sealing the world's end. But the tablet is more than clay. It's you, your doubts, your fears, your life. And carving it feels like carving your own heart. Offering it feels like offering your soul. The wind howls, the torches flicker, and you feel the earth tremble, a faint quake, like the omens you've carried, the gods' warning, their demand. You think of the boy in Tikal, the girl in Memphis, the man in Nippur, their lives tied to yours, their eyes a mirror of your fear. You think of the seer's words, truth or yours, heart or fire, dust or cycle, and realize they're all the same, a choice that's no choice, a debt that's always due. You understand, standing in the temple's ruin, why survival is impossible. Not just the storm, the gods, the end, but the prophecies you bear, the choices you make, the gods who demand your soul. You're an apprentice, not a hero, not a priest. And the gods don't want survivors, they want scribes, and you're the last. You look at Inanna Ishtar, her eyes a storm, Tlakalel, his face a flame, Ravi, his staff a root, Siddha, his idol a cycle. The tablet burns in your hands, the brazier's fire calling, and you know there's no escape, only a choice that will unmake you. Do you carve the storm off of the tablet and surrender to Ashur's judgment, hoping to appease the gods and delay the end, knowing it might consume you? Or do you break the tablet, reject the prophecy, and defy the gods, risking their wrath, knowing your rebellion could mark you as the first to fall when the sky tears? The choice is a tempest rending your soul, and you're already lost. You kneel before the altar, the tablet trembling, and raise your stylus, its point sharp as your fear. The seers watch, their shadows merging, their eyes the god's own. You carve, your hand steady but your heart wild. The storm cloud's wedges taking shape, each stroke a confession of Sumer's flood, Aztec fire, Indus dust, Inca quake, Maya darkness, Shan chaos, Babylonian ash, Vedic dissolution, Assyrian storm. The tablet is complete, its prophecy whole, and you stand. The brazier's heat searing your face, the flames hungry. You hesitate, the tablet your life, your truth, and feel the quake grow, the wind howl, the stars flicker. Inanna Ishtar nods, Tlakalel's eyes blaze, Ravi's staff stills, Siddha's idol gleams. And you know the moment is now, the debt is due, the world is ending. You cast the tablet into the brazier, its clay cracking, its wedges burning, the storm cloud rising in smoke. The fire roars, the quake peaks, and the seers vanish, their shadows swallowed by the flames. The courtyard trembles, the winged bulls crack, and you feel the storm, not in the sky, but in you. Ashur's wrath, the god's judgment, the end you've written. The tablet is gone, your truth with it, and you're empty, a scribe with no words, a soul with no weight. The brazier dies, the quake stills, but the air is heavier, the midnight darker, like the sky has already torn. You stumble from the temple, the city silent, the Euphrates roaring, and know you've paid the debt. But the gods are never satisfied, their storms always brewing, their ledgers never closed. You collapse in your hut, the mud walls a fragile cage, and feel the storm cloud's weight, Ashur's disk, the god scales. The seer's eyes, the tablet's wedges, the brazier's ash, they're part of you, like the prophecies, like the end. You close your eyes, the wind a ghost in your ears, and see the storm, its cloud whole but broken, a mirror of your soul. You understand, as the night presses close, why you couldn't survive. Because the prophecies are a god, their omens your judge, their debts your grave. You chose to carve, to burn, to surrender, but it's burned you, and you're no longer whole. The Euphrates chants, the city sleeps, and the temple watches, its bulls eternal, your life a flicker. Sleep well if you dare, but don't be surprised if you wake to the sound of thunder, or the touch of a winged bull's gaze, judging you one last time. Good night.